The universe never rolls dice, it whispers patterns, and from the very first second of existence, when space itself ignited into being, nothing truly happened by accident, because what we call randomness is often just order moving faster than our understanding. Look at the stars, scattered across the night sky. They appear careless, thrown without intention, yet astronomers know their distribution follows invisible laws written in gravity and time, the same way clouds seem to drift freely, but always obey pressure, heat, and motion. And just like that, our lives too appear chaotic, filled with coincidences, sudden turns, unexpected losses, and impossible wins. Yet beneath this apparent mess lies a hidden architecture so precise that if you slow reality down frame by frame, you begin to see that chaos itself has rules. Imagine standing on a busy highway during rush hour, thousands of cars moving independently, each driver making personal decisions, braking, accelerating, changing lanes, and yet suddenly traffic freezes, not because of an accident, not because of a signal, but because of something invisible, a phantom jam, a wave created by tiny human reactions stacking together into a massive system-wide collapse. And scientists have proven that these jams form predictable mathematical patterns, meaning even frustration follows equations, and the same equations appear again when stock markets crash, when crowds panic, when ideas go viral, when civilizations rise and fall, because randomness, as it turns out, is often structured chaos wearing a disguise. Long before humans invented numbers, nature was already calculating, carving spirals into galaxies, etching branching patterns into lightning bolts, shaping coastlines with fractal precision, repeating the same design at different scales so that a river delta looks eerily similar to the veins inside your hand. And the shock is not that these patterns exist, but that they repeat everywhere, in forests, in storms, in neural networks inside the brain, suggesting that the universe prefers efficiency, and efficiency creates form, and form creates pattern, and pattern destroys the idea of randomness altogether. In the 1960s, a meteorologist named Edward Lorenz discovered something unsettling while modeling weather systems. A tiny rounding error, changing a number from 0.506127 to 0.50, completely altered the future outcome of his simulation. Storms appeared where none existed before, skies cleared where chaos once reigned, and from this accident was born chaos theory, the idea that small causes can have massive effects. A butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil altering the path of a tornado in Texas, not as poetry, but as mathematics, a reminder that the universe is sensitive, reactive, and deeply interconnected, meaning nothing is isolated, nothing is random, and everything matters more than we think. Look closer at nature and you'll find fractals, shapes that repeat themselves no matter how much you zoom in or out, coastlines that become infinitely complex, trees that mirror their own branches, lungs that resemble upside-down forests. And what's terrifying is not their beauty, but their implication, because fractals reveal that chaos isn't messy, it's infinitely ordered, following simple rules again and again, creating complexity without randomness. And once you see this, you start noticing it everywhere, in fire, in waves, in snowflakes, even in the way cities grow, roads branching like arteries, neighborhoods clustering like cells, urban sprawl behaving less like human planning and more like biological growth. Human behavior, too, is trapped inside invisible formulas. Social media algorithms amplify certain emotions over others, creating predictable ways of outrage and obsession. Memes spread following power laws, where a few ideas dominate while millions disappear without a trace. Popularity itself becomes mathematical, and what feels spontaneous is actually statistical inevitability, because when millions of humans interact inside a system, individuality fades and patterns emerge, just like gas molecules losing identity when pressure and temperature take over, and suddenly society behaves like physics, not psychology. Even randomness itself can be measured, tested, exposed, because when scientists analyze truly random systems, they rarely exist in nature. Radioactive decay comes close. Quantum mechanics dances on the edge of unpredictability. But even there, probabilities obey strict mathematical distributions, meaning uncertainty is governed, not free. And this is where reality becomes unsettling, because if randomness is limited, then free will becomes questionable, and the idea that life is a series of accidents begins to collapse under the weight of evidence. Think about your own life, the people you met by chance, the decisions that felt impulsive, the failures that seemed unfair, the opportunities that arrived unexpectedly, and ask yourself this: were they truly random, or were they the result of thousands of invisible variables aligning at a single moment? Geography, timing, culture, psychology, history, all converging to produce an outcome that only feels accidental, because no human mind can track that much information at once, and ignorance is often mistaken for randomness. The universe does not explain itself in words, it speaks in patterns, and mathematics is the closest language we have to understanding its grammar, a language that reveals order inside noise, structure inside chaos, meaning inside confusion. And once you learn to see these patterns, you can never unsee them, because chaos stops being frightening and starts becoming predictable. Not controllable, but understandable, like waves in the ocean, impossible to stop, but easy to recognize once you know their rhythm. Civilizations collapse following curves, not surprises. Resource depletion follows exponential decline. Population growth follows logistic equations. Even war has mathematical models predicting escalation and resolution. And history, when plotted on a graph, stops looking like a collection of stories and starts resembling a system responding to pressure, stress, and imbalance, suggesting that humanity itself is part of a larger mechanism, not separate from it. And yet, despite all this structure, the universe preserves uncertainty, not to confuse us, but to keep systems alive, because perfect order is static, dead, frozen, while chaos injects movement, creativity, evolution, meaning chaos is not the enemy of order, it is its partner, a necessary ingredient in complexity, allowing life to adapt, mutate, survive, and this balance between order and chaos is where existence thrives. So when you hear someone say, "It was just random," understand that what they really mean is, "I don't know the pattern yet," because randomness is often a placeholder for incomplete knowledge, a temporary label for systems too complex to calculate in real time. And the deeper science goes, the smaller the domain of true randomness becomes. This raises a disturbing question. If chaos has rules, if randomness is limited, if patterns shape everything from galaxies to human behavior, then where does that leave us? Are we passengers inside a cosmic machine, or observers capable of learning the system well enough to influence our trajectory, not by controlling chaos, but by understanding it? And that question sits at the edge of science and philosophy, waiting to be explored. Because the moment you realize the world is not random, the moment you see structure hiding inside noise, you gain a dangerous power. Not to predict everything, but to recognize signals before they become disasters, to sense shifts before they explode, to read the rhythm of reality instead of fighting it blindly, and that realization changes how you see everything. This isn't just a story about math or science or patterns. This is a story about perception, about the limits of human understanding, about how the universe hides order inside chaos, daring us to look closer, to slow down, to question assumptions, because the biggest illusion humanity ever believed was that the world is random, when in reality it is deeply, beautifully, relentlessly structured. And this is only the beginning.
If chaos has rules, then the next question is unavoidable. Who is reading them, and who is being written by them? Because the moment humans discovered patterns, they stopped being passive observers and started becoming participants inside the system, using knowledge not to escape chaos, but to bend around it. The way sailors learn to read waves instead of fighting the ocean, and that is where power truly begins. Throughout history, those who understood patterns shaped the future. Farmers learned seasonal cycles and survived while others starved. Astronomers predicted eclipses and were mistaken for gods. Traders sensed market rhythms before crashes erased fortunes. And even today, the most powerful institutions on Earth do not predict the future with prophecy. They model it with data, probabilities, feedback loops, simulations, because prediction is not certainty, it is pattern recognition scaled to machines. Modern artificial intelligence does not think the way humans do. It detects patterns in oceans of data, finding correlations no human mind could ever track, recognizing faces, predicting behavior, finishing sentences, shaping reality invisibly. And this is not magic, it is mathematics consuming chaos and spitting out probability. And what terrifies experts is not what AI can do, but how well it mirrors the universe itself, learning not through logic, but through exposure, repetition, and emergence, the same way brains evolved, the same way galaxies formed, the same way life organizes itself out of disorder. Emergence is the most dangerous word in science because it describes something that cannot be predicted by studying individual parts alone. Consciousness emerging from neurons, intelligence emerging from simple rules, civilizations emerging from individuals, meaning even if every component obeys simple laws, the whole becomes something new, something unexpected, not random, but unpredictable in detail. And this is where chaos regains its mystery, not as an enemy of order, but as its creative force. Consider ant colonies. Individual ants follow basic instructions, yet collectively they build cities, wage wars, farm fungus, and adapt to threats without central control. And the same phenomenon appears in human societies, online communities, financial markets, and even ideas themselves. Because when enough elements interact, intelligence emerges naturally, suggesting that intelligence is not special, not rare, but inevitable under the right conditions. A terrifying thought if the universe itself is one giant interacting system. Zoom out far enough, and even time begins to follow patterns. Entropy increases, complexity rises, systems move from simplicity to organization to collapse, repeating this cycle endlessly. Stars are born, burn, and die. Civilizations rise, peak, and fall. Technologies emerge, dominate, and become obsolete. And while the details change, the curve remains eerily consistent, implying that history is not random storytelling, but a waveform oscillating through existence. And then there's you. Your thoughts feel private, spontaneous, free, but neuroscience tells a different story. Brain activity predicts decisions milliseconds before conscious awareness, meaning the feeling of choice arrives after the process has already begun. And while this does not eliminate free will, it reframes it, suggesting that consciousness is less a commander and more a narrator, explaining actions after patterns have already fired beneath the surface. This realization unsettles people because it threatens identity itself, but it also offers relief because if behavior follows patterns, then change is not about willpower alone, but about altering environments, inputs, and feedback loops, changing the system rather than blaming the individual. And this understanding is quietly reshaping psychology, education, economics, and medicine. The same logic applies to failure. When systems break, they do not do so randomly. Bridges collapse due to stress accumulation. Ecosystems fail due to imbalance. Relationships fracture under unresolved feedback. And ignoring patterns does not make them disappear. It accelerates collapse, because chaos does not punish ignorance, it exploits it. The future will not be decided by those who fear chaos, but by those who read it. Because the next global crisis will not arrive as a surprise. It will emerge slowly, predictably, quietly, disguised as normality, the way all collapses do. And those trained to see patterns will recognize danger long before alarms sound. But here lies the paradox. The more we predict systems, the more we influence them, and the more they change in response, making prediction harder. Markets react to forecasts, people adapt to warnings, chaos evolves to evade control, ensuring that no system can ever be fully mastered, preserving uncertainty as a fundamental feature of reality. This is why perfect control is impossible, and why attempts to eliminate chaos always fail. Authoritarian systems collapse faster, over-optimized systems shatter under stress, monocultures invite extinction, because resilience is born from variation, from controlled disorder, from chaos contained but never erased. Nature understands this instinctively. Forests burn to renew, mutations create evolution, storms redistribute energy, death makes space for life, and every attempt by humans to impose absolute order eventually produces fragility, proving that chaos is not a flaw, but a requirement for survival. So the real question is not whether the world is random, but whether we are willing to accept complexity without demanding simplicity, whether we can live inside uncertainty without surrendering to fear, whether we can learn patterns without becoming prisoners of prediction. Because understanding chaos does not mean controlling fate, it means choosing better responses, positioning yourself where probabilities favor growth rather than collapse, recognizing currents instead of swimming blindly, and this skill is becoming the most valuable literacy of the modern age. In a world flooded with information, noise, outrage, and distraction, pattern recognition becomes clarity, the ability to filter signal from static, to see long-term trends beneath short-term shocks, to remain calm when systems oscillate wildly, because panic is the natural response of those who believe events are random, while composure belongs to those who know better. The universe is not random, but it is not predictable either. It exists in a tension between structure and surprise, order and chaos, certainty and freedom, and life thrives precisely in this narrow band, balanced on the edge of instability, where creativity is possible and stagnation is avoided. And perhaps this is the final lesson hidden inside chaos. Not that everything is predetermined, not that free will is an illusion, but that meaning emerges from interaction, from participation, from learning the rhythm of reality and moving with it instead of against it. You are not outside the system, observing chaos from a distance. You are inside it, influencing it, being influenced by it, shaping and being shaped simultaneously, a node in a vast network stretching across time and space, where every action ripples outward in ways you may never see, but which are never random. Once you understand this, the world looks different. News headlines become symptoms, trends become warnings, coincidences become alignments, and chaos becomes readable. Not comforting, but honest, and honesty is the first step towards wisdom. Because the universe does not promise fairness, it promises consistency. It does not guarantee happiness, it guarantees patterns. And those patterns don't care about belief, emotion, or intention. They operate relentlessly, silently, beautifully. And now that you've seen them, you cannot unsee them. The only question left is what you will do with this knowledge, because ignorance is no longer an option, and chaos is no longer an excuse. The world is not random. It never was.